So, yeah, the grand finale. Fingers crossed. The vMix Obtanium build. Actually, two of them. It's been a long series, but we've got the finale for you today. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with the pre-show. Yeah. Finally. Welcome, Gunner. Glad you're here. Yes, indeedy. Let's see. Yep. Come on. There we go. Yep. It's been an interesting period of time, to say the least. I'm back. Was off grid last Wednesday, taking some much needed time off to rest and recuperate with my lovely spouse, and excited about today's show because today marks the end of our Obsidian, golly, sooner or later I'm going to get that right, our Obtanium build, and it's a good day. Yes, Michael Graves, it's a good day, or a good day as they say. Interesting stuff, not related to the Obtanium build, but that vMix released two new reference systems last night, actually. It was Wednesday for them, but it was Tuesday night for us, Wednesday morning for them, Tuesday night for us. And let's see if we can find, yeah, it was the Opal system, which is kind of their bottom of the line, simple 4 HD camera setup, and their Ruby system, which is, I guess, yeah, it's probably 4 cameras and 4 camera replay, with the promise that they're going to update their Topaz system. So that should bring them pretty well up to date. They updated the laptops first, and then they came out with the Obtanium back in December, and then the Opal and the Ruby last night. And no big changes, really, I don't think. The Opal and the Ruby just basically updated. Well, yeah, the Ruby went from an AMD Ryzen processor to the Intel. Essentially, it's the old i5, whatever they're calling it now, and then the same with the Topaz that went from the i7 to the Ultra i7 or Ultra 7 or whatever. I'll get the terminology right sooner or later. I hope. So we'll be building those as time goes on, and we'll be updating our website to reflect that. Oh my gosh. I'm getting the text messages here today, and I dare not turn it off because it might be something that I need to see. Had a little minor surgery yesterday, which the kind minor enough that I was able to walk out of the hospital same day, but not minor enough that they did have to put me under. So Sandy says I was a little loopy yesterday. I suspect I may be a little loopy today. It takes a little while for that stuff to work its way out of me. But what it means is that they gave me what did they give me? Anti-nausea drug, something to knock me out, and then an anti-anxiety drug, which I didn't really need because I'm rarely anxious. But the effect has been that it's taken my anxiety level, which was like 0, and set it down to -5. So I could say anything. But and I don't do drugs, except when they're prescribed by a physician, or they give them to me in the hospital. I was asking them as they were giving them to me, what's this, what's that? And they would tell me, but they really didn't want to tell me what they were giving me. I could see it was just kind of like, yeah, well, you asked, so we're obligated to say. But if you hadn't have asked, we wouldn't have said. All right, let's go into the show here, and let's see, where is it? Should be right there. Yeah, there it is. Okay, we'll be right back. Just counsel you on that. That is the Obtanium build number 2. Obtanium build number 1 went beautifully. Obtanium build number 2, just I would say it crashed and burned, but it never got high enough in the air to crash. It was just crashing. Oh, there's no audio? Yeah, there's audio. You're making that up. Okay, there we go. Thank you. Welcome to those of you that are just joining us to Sierra Cast TV and Jesper and Tim. And yeah, what happened to the audio? I don't know. Who knows? We'll find out later. If you missed the pre-show, I'm a little extra loopy today, a little extra idiotic. I had some minor surgery yesterday that I was able to walk out of the hospital. It was, outpatient stuff, but they did put me under. And among the other things, what in the world? Sorry, I got to turn that down. Among other things, they gave me an anti-anxiety drug, which I'm not ever anxious. I mean, just, in the rarest cases. And surgery, I don't mind. You can do anything you want to me surgically. But they gave me this anti-anxiety drug, which took my anxiety from 0 down to like -5. So if I appear a little loopier than normal, that's the reason. And if I forget to do something, that's the reason too. I'll use that as an example, as an excuse right off the bat. So we've got Obtanium build. Boy, that person's really persistent. We're going to have to just cut the audio down. How can we get, there we go. Now we can cut the audio down. Cut the ringer all the way down. There we go. I don't want to turn it off completely. I do want it to buzz because I might get interrupted by a call. Anyway, sorry about that. You can tell I'm a little loopier than normal. The build behind me is the second build. And I struggled mightily with that because I thought I had a problem. I didn't have a problem. I had two problems. Problem uno was that we diagnosed pretty closely on was that it was a bad Xeon chip, the W5-2565X, which is a nice little processor. I really like it a lot, but that CPU was no good. And I swapped it into, fortunately, we were building two of them, so I could swap it back into the first one, and the first one didn't work, so I knew it was a CPU. And so we built everything without that CPU, and we used CPU number one into PC number two. But then PC number two started having problems, and it would just go black. I mean, it wouldn't crash in the sense that we got a blue screen of death or any kind of notification. It would just, the computer would just turn off. And it seemed to happen randomly. I mean, what is random? Random is the ability, or the random is the observation of no pattern. That's what I call randomness. There's no pattern to it until, you guessed it, until you detect a pattern. And the pattern was every time I pressed a key on the keyboard rapidly. Now, what key can I can press the shift key here. So I'm just going to press the shift key rapidly, like I might press the delete key when the PC first turns on, and I don't want it, and I want to go into the BIOS. So I'm going to be banging the key like that. Whoops, and it put a message up on my screen saying, do you really want to do that? And the PC would go black. Even this was before it even got to the BIOS. I mean, that's the crazy thing about it. So it was just like, what is this? What is this? And I thought, okay, it's a keyboard. And it's a wireless keyboard, and the system doesn't like a wireless keyboard. So I pulled an old wired keyboard, dusted it off, plugged it in along with the mouse, and disconnected the dongle for the wireless keyboard. And doggone it, it didn't happen with the wired keyboard. So it's not a keyboard thing. And then I'm thinking, well, maybe it's a noise thing. Well, I can't hear the noise. Well, maybe it's a vibration thing. And you know, when all the easy answers are not the right answer, you start looking for the crazy answers. And I said, maybe it's a vibration thing. So I booted up the computer and pounded on the desk. Off it went. Okay, what are you thinking? I'm thinking loose power cable. So audio and video are out of sync. Well, let's check them real quick. Sorry. They shouldn't be. Got 50 milliseconds of delay here, and it looks, yeah, it might be a tad out of sync, but I don't think so. I don't think so. Sorry, Tim, if that's still happening, let me know. Could be on the YouTube end. Occasionally, you know, things don't go right on that way. Where was I? Pound on the table, it went off. Vibration. Check power cables. All the power cables are good on the motherboard. Check the power cables on the power supply. All the cables on the power supply is good. Check the power cord going into the power supply. That's good. I mean, I unplugged everything and plugged it back in. And I'm thinking, okay, this is good. This is good. What about other stuff? So I'm, you know, you can see the build. Let me shift the camera back there. Let's see. Can we shift the camera to what's behind me? Yeah, there we go. So I'm basically jiggling everything. I've got the two Blackmagic quad 2s in there, and I'm jiggling those around, no problem. I've got USB cables and Ethernet cables, no problem. I touched the DisplayPort cable on the GPU, boom, everything dies. So I'm thinking, okay, I've got a bad DisplayPort cable. Put a new cable in, same thing happens. Okay, it's not the cable. It's the old Occam's razor thing in this case. You know, what is the simplest? Go to the simplest thing first. Wasn't the cable. What's next after it's not the cable? It's the GPU, a 4080 Super, which is what vMix recommends on their Obtanium, I got it right the first time, on their Obtanium build right now, 4080 Super. We'll see what happens when the 5080s get available. Hey, Otis, glad you're here. Lost my train of thought. Sorry about that. Otis, people will tell you about the drug problem that I'm having right now, so don't pay any attention to me. Don't believe a word I say unless I tell you to believe it. So what I'm about to say is really true. So I said I must have a bad video card. All this time, I thought it was the CPU. So I took the bad CPU and put it back in the good machine being PC number 1, bad machine being PC number 2. And PC number 1 didn't work. So I said, okay, bad CPU confirmed. It wasn't the CPU. It wasn't just the graphics card. It was also a bad CPU. So I swapped the graphics card. Fortunately, I had 2 of them on hand. Swapped the graphics card, the 4080 Super, from PC number 1, put it in PC number 2. Everybody's happy. Bad graphics card. Well, I hadn't really finished building PC number 2, of course, because I was having all these issues. And so, but I needed to continue to work on PC number 1 and get it ready to go. Right now, it's sitting over here in the case, and I'll take you over to it in just a second. So I grabbed off the shelf a NVIDIA, wanted to have an NVIDIA card. I already had the driver set for the 4080 Super, but I put in a 3050. That's about as low as you can go and still be within the vMix spec for any vMix PC. I think the new, what build is it? The new Opal build is a 3050. So got those on hand for that. And here I go with the 3050, and boots right up, no problem. You know, get everything connected, and away we go. Or so I thought until I was getting ready for the show this morning, and I plugged in Ethernet. It's got 3 Ethernet ports. One of them I think is for server type stuff. So the vMix guys say just disable that one and pretend like it doesn't exist. It's VGA. No, excuse me. Sorry, thinking the wrong thing. It's a LAN port, but it's not to be used for what we're going to use it for. But we've got 2 10 gig ports, and I plugged into one 10 gig port. Nothing. Like what? Are we having trouble? So I plugged into the other 10 gig port. Got internet. That's great. Plugged back into the first one. It's not there. New cable, new connection on the switch, same symptom. So we've almost got all the bugs worked out. We may have an issue with the motherboard. I'll remove and install the LAN driver later as a way to double check on that one. But it's possible we could, after all of this, that we could have a bad motherboard too. So it's been a real ringer. Let me take you up close. I'm going to use my phone, and I'm going to, come on, that is my face. There we go. And I'm going to join a call. Yes, use my camera. What camera are we going to use? Yeah, that's good. And we're going to use the front camera. Good, that's the one we want to use. Let's turn it off, get it out of the way. Turn the microphone off, because we don't want any audio with this call. And where is the call? Here's the call, right there. Okay, so I'm going to shift you over. Turn the audio all the way down, all the way down. Come on, guys, get all the way down there. And in fact, let's make the return audio source bus C, because nothing's on bus C. All right, so there's no audio coming out of this guy right now. And I'm using the advanced vMix call because I can choose my front and back cameras, and I can go back and forth between those as I need to. So this is going to be, of course, it's going to be a little jerky, but this is my setup, by the way, today. And I've got you guys over here on the left where I can keep an eye on you. This screen right here is actually a team viewer into the PC behind me. And then there are all your comments right there. So yeah, there we go. So let's go over to this little guy, and I'll show you where we are with him. And I guess I gotta, yeah, there we go. All right. So this is going to be the system. Check out the cooler on this guy. It's really great. Obviously, it's a lot of wires right here, but this is the Silverstone server cooler. Really cool. And a couple of M.2s over here on the corner. And then check out all of those PCIe slots, 16X. Now, unfortunately, with this CPU, these two slots right here are disabled. So we've got a good slot, a good slot, a good slot, and then of course a good slot for the GPU. And then this is our little Ethernet jack right here that's not working like he should. And we'll continue to play with him some more. Make sure we haven't done something stupid before we blame it on the hardware. So let's go back. Oh, and let me adjust something here. 1 second. We're going to say the video source is going to be output. There we go. Now I can see. And the studio's a wreck, but the studio's always a wreck. And precariously perched on this chair is PC number 1. And we can see that it's a tight fit, big video card, of course. And here's our 360 millimeter cooler fan, and then of course the cooler on top of the CPU, and everything nestles in here nicely. We've still got some cable management to do on here, and wanted to have these fans are blowing out, so they're blowing out over the radiator and taking all that heat out. And then we've got a pair of fans in the back that are blowing in, and this case is actually well ventilated just for passive ventilation, so we like it a lot. This is going to be case for PC number 2. We've got it all set out and ready to work. Interesting little bracket here that comes with the PC. And the very first PC, the bad PC we got, they sent the wrong bracket. So I wonder if we didn't get a factory return or something like that. That was a bad PC and the wrong bracket. And this is another system that we're building that is more conventional. Well, conventional in that we're using a traditional i9 in that with an 8-port capture card and a 4-port capture card. So it'll be a nice little system. Nice little system. All right, so let's go back over here where we can get everything squared away. Another little view here. I really like these capture cards from Blackmagic because they're dual purpose, of course. So we've got 16 channels in, but that could easily be, well, with Blackmagic it could be 16 channels out, but with vMix it can only be 4. Yeah. Interesting motherboard. You see these 2 lights right here. They basically, one stays on all the time and the other one flashes, and it has something to do with server management. So it doesn't really help us with any kind of diagnosis and there's no way to hook up a little speaker to it, so we can't get the beep code. So you're really kind of shooting in the dark if something is amiss, like, you know, some loose RAM or something like that. This is a board for, this is not a consumer board or even an enthusiast board. You know, this is a workstation board, and people that deal with workstations should know what they are. One little thing that we found out just yesterday is that the USB, I guess this is the USB 3 socket, is mounted sideways. Now that's interesting. Let's go back over to the other PC. Stay with me here. I know it's a little jerky and walky. We may not have enough light to see it, but down there, right there, is that connector, and there's no space to bend this cable down to that connector. Fortunately, they make a little 90-degree connector, so we'll get, and that just goes to the USB ports on the front, but you know, they're kind of important. There's also a USB-C on the front, but it, yeah, we'll drop this call too. Yep, end the call. There's USB-C on the case, but there's no USB-C on the board. So it's interesting. I keep drifting out of focus. Well, it's a drug problem, John. It's a drug problem. I had some surgery yesterday, and I still have some of the effects of the anesthesia. I mean, I know that's not really what you're talking about, but the camera is will do out of focus if I shift around. It tries to focus on stuff behind me anyway. It's operator error is what it is. Operator error. So the conclusion that I've reached with this saga on the Obtanium builds is, I mean, this is the most hardware issues I've had with one PC ever. A bad CPU, which actually Intel, I mean, I overnighted it to them, and they overnighted a new one back to me. So we got that fixed just like that. Asus provided me with a label for the Asus 4080 Super. And so I used their label, went to California. So it took, you know, 3 Sundays to get there. And it's there, it's checked in. They have a beautiful status screen to let you know where you are in the queue, but it doesn't move very quickly. They notified me when it arrived, and that I could track it down, and I have been tracking it. And they say it's been repaired, but and now it's waiting for quality control. So I don't know if it's been repaired or if they're just going to send me a new one. I mean, in some ways it doesn't matter. It's still under warranty, but I'd much rather have a new one than one that had a problem. Yeah, we'll see. Sometimes you get a brand new one out of the box, and sometimes you get one that's fixed. If, you know, I wasn't going to take it apart and try to see if there was anything, you know, like maybe there wasn't enough paste on the GPU chip, or maybe there was a loose connection. Obviously there was a loose connection in it somewhere, because that's what the problem was. And I tried it on several different display ports. Yeah, so we'll see. I'll test the tar out of it when I get it back. You can rest assured. So we'll see if we get it in. The client wants them as soon as possible, of course. So we've got one will go out this week. That one we'll wait and get if we don't get the CPU back by next week, I'm going to order a brand new one, and we'll just deal with that after the fact. Yep, sometimes you just have to do what you can do to make it right, and hope that the finances work out later. I think they will. But who knows? Who knows? So it's a super powerful machine, and I think the folks are going to be really happy with it. Actually, 2 of them. They're both going to a studio in North Carolina, but one of them will be remotely operated out of New York, and the other one will be operated by a live technician there in the studio. So we'll see. We will see. We will see. I mean, you know, it's fun stuff. It's fun stuff. If I were to go through all this again, if I were to be looking over Heath's shoulder as he and Tim put together the specs for the Obtanium build, I might not have chosen this motherboard because the manual is a piece of paper this big that's folded down and that's tri-folded and then tri-folded again. And it has the, you know, it has the necessary stuff on it, but it doesn't have anything, it doesn't have any troubleshooting information. And I guess, you know, if you're in the server or the workstation world, then you're dealing with tech support directly from Gigabyte. But Gigabyte tech support passed me off to the workstation tech support, who apparently is a guy with the guy with an email address. So we've been emailing back and forth to his email address at Gigabyte, and it you know, sometimes it's 2 or 3 days to get a hold of him, and then 2 or 3 days for me to reply. But you know, oh well. So the latest greatest is we'll go back to him and see. At first, I thought all this was a motherboard problem. I thought my bad CPU is a motherboard problem. I thought my bad GPU is a motherboard problem. I thought the motherboard was giving those symptoms. Turns out it was not, but there is still a motherboard problem on the Ethernet port. So I'll get up with him this afternoon and see what we can do on that. And if we have to RMA this, yeah, we'll see. I did buy an Asus ProArt Z. No. Do I have it handy? Anyway, I bought the same. I bought the same workstation, the equivalent workstation board from Asus. The only problem with it is that it doesn't have as many PCIe slots when you use this particular CPU, the 2565X, the Xeon. And so it doesn't configure itself as well, but it did it did fire right up the first time, and it's a prettier board, so you know, I guess that's worth something. But it only has one. I think it only had one M.2 slot. So yeah. So there were some workarounds that we were going to have to make that one work. But I'm rambling. But thank you guys for being with me through this build as we've started from scratch. The very first day we pulled out the motherboard and assembled the CPU on it, but the CPU wouldn't assemble on it because it was the wrong bracket. Remember, they sent me the wrong bracket. So, okay, so SierraCast, are you willing to talk about pricing? Say how much it'll cost someone for you to build a similar PC. These were about 12 grand with the 4080 Super, vMix Pro, 2 Blackmagic DeckLink Quad 2s, a high-end 1 terabyte SSD and a high-end 2 terabyte SSD. And what else? And then the Silverstone case. Yeah, Silverstone cases. The Silverstone case is interesting because I had a couple of those on hand. I like them, and that's kind of my go-to 4U case, especially when I want to do water cooling, because it has the ability to take that very easily. A lot of server cases don't. And it was interesting, you know, the ones I had on the shelf, I think I bought for about $280, and now they're up to about $380. And I think, you know, you can say, okay, well, it's tariffs, but I think it's really supply and demand. Is that, you know, the local supply out in California or wherever they come from is dwindling, so the price is going up as a result. And with the 90-day tariff pause, hopefully that'll bring inventories back up, which should bring prices back down again. So yeah, it's It's good. But the systems we build come with a 3-year warranty, tech support, which covers, of course, the vMix end of it as well as the hardware end of it. So you just have one finger to point with if things don't go wrong. Point that finger right here, and we're responsible for everything in it, and we'll do what it takes to get folks back up running as quickly as possible. That's our pledge. Yep. Well, let's flip over into the post show, and I want to go through your comments, and I might have a little rant too. We'll see. So let's find our our outro, and we'll go there. See you in a sec. All right. Representing New Jersey, it's Syracast TV. Welcome. Glad you're here. Thanks for the notes early. And Jesper's here. And Tim Fay is here with no audio. And no audio. And it's back. And audio. And audio and video out of sync. I think that was YouTube. But Syracast usually does an 80 millisecond. I don't think it's millimeter. Millisecond delay on the audio. And that's close to what we're using. We're using a 50 because that's what the latency is with NDI. But if it's not in sync right now, we did the old clap test and then slowed it down and recorded it and slowed it down and kind of dialed it in from there. But there's Otis, and there is actually a video out there on YouTube that has the circle that moves around and then a beep, and is really helpful for sort of dialing that in. Yeah. I'm just John, you've met me, you know me. I'm just out of focus to begin with. Yes, is there anything else I can give you on pricing? I mean, if you want to ask me for a formal quote, I'd love to give you one. You can just do the email tom@easternshorebroadcasting.com. Or just pop me a note in Facebook if you're a member of the Streaming Idiots group on Facebook, or call me like everybody else has been trying to do. You can hear my phone kind of going off low key in the background. You're late. You're late. It's 3:30 Eastern here right now, so you're late. Yeah, I know. I was just pulling your chain. I knew it was milliseconds, not millimeters. Unless, things, in New Jersey, you just do things differently than the rest of us, which is probably true. But I think millimeters and milliseconds are pretty close to the same. Let's see, is there I'm going to go over to the pre-show for just a second and see if you guys noticed. If you weren't in the pre-show, you didn't notice this, but vMix did put out another update a day or so ago, 28.0.0.42, which had to do with YouTube Stream Now. So if you use YouTube Stream Now, you want to pay attention to that. And another fix on the list, not important, M3U playlists. And then a note from vMix for Happy Mother's Day, which was Sunday. Yeah. So there we go. There we go. Welcome, Mr. Joseph. Glad you're here. Glad you are here. Otis says a few PCs and parts purchased over the few weeks would cost way up. Yeah, I agree. I agree. You know, it's an interesting thing about tariffs. You know, everybody's got an opinion about tariffs, but I remember studying in economics in school that a country would use a tariff in order to price an imported good at a similar level to what a locally produced good would be. And that way, they would protect their local producer so that the consumer could choose not based on price, but based on value, because the imported part would be tariffed enough to make it in the same range as the local part. And I always thought that was fair. You know, if a country is going to use child labor and produce things for 50 cents on the dollar, it's not fair to have that come in and take over a market. And so a tariff is a way of kind of leveling the playing field, as it were. And I think a lot of people have either never understood or have forgotten that is a reason for a long-term tariff, is to kind of keep the playing field level, and tariffs should be adjusted too. You know, if a foreign producer, if their costs go up, you know, if the tariff is stacked on top of their costs, you want to lower the tariff again to meet the original intent, which was just to not totally protect the U.S. guy, but to make it fair. We don't want to overprice the foreign good unless we want to send a message. And I think that's what's going on. And unfortunately, for a lot of folks that are really tied in, especially with China, really tied into to a Chinese supply chain, they're temporarily in a bad space. And a lot of folks that were, you know, could see down the road, doubled or tripled or quadrupled their Chinese import in January, February, before the tariffs went up. That's why there was a tremendous increase in dock worker hires during that time. It wasn't because the economy was spinning. It was because all these people were getting their goods in and stockpiling them to hopefully to ride through the crisis. We did that during COVID. You know, there were power supplies were impossible to find, and whenever I could find them, I bought 10 times as many as I needed, because I knew that they would be hard to find again. Same thing with GPUs. In fact, we're in a little bit of a GPU drought now, although they're beginning, the 5000 series are beginning to flow in. And they must have some sort of tariff exemption, perhaps, or maybe they were just all in January, February, and now they're just kind of hitting the channels now in April and May. We will see. But yeah, I think the 90-day pause, again, it's a ripple effect, but the ripples take a while to have effect. You know, there's a particular control surface, TYST, that I've had some people inquire about, and you can't find those in the US. You can only find them in China from a number of people in China that are, you know, exporters, I guess. Somebody's got to be the creator of this thing. But they'll only sell you one, because or maybe they'll sell you two, because there's some sort of $800 rule that anything over $800 is subject to a tariff. And so there are all these individual shipments that are sliding under that into the US. So we'll see. We will see. What were the details on the YouTube update with vMix? Well, ask and you shall. We'll wait for that to roll back around again. It doesn't affect me, because when I'm doing YouTube, to the, what am I doing on my streamer? Yeah, I'm doing a custom RTMP server, so I'm going to the URL with the stream key, and I don't care about all the other special features that vMix has done to kind of tap into the YouTube API. I also go into YouTube every time and set up my stream and give it a description and a thumbnail, and then take the stream destination, the stream, it's not a stream key because I got the key, but it's the stream code, I guess, that you guys would see on the URL bar. And I use that to build the connection on my website. Those of you that go to the website to watch this, that's I'll put in the 11 character unique identifier for this live stream. But yeah, there is the YouTube sometimes sending them out of order. There you go. All right, Goda says, well, we are paying it with no local manufacturers. I'm paying a premium for GPUs. I'm passing it through churches. Yeah, and you know, it's NVIDIA has come up with a pricing structure, and I don't know that all of the resellers, you know, the people that you and I might buy from, I don't think they're following those pricing structures. I think they're, you know, again, doing a supply and demand thing, whereas if NVIDIA suggests that a GPU should sell for $500, they may sell it for $9 because you can't get it anywhere. Or anywhere you get it, it's going to be priced at $9. It's supply and demand. But if there's enough supply, and you know, they're selling them for $900 and I'm selling them for $800, then I'm going to be the one selling them all because there's the same or similar. I mean, there's some brands that I stay away from because I've had so many problems with, or not so many, because I've had problems with them in the past, especially on the lower end, on the you know, the less expensive cards just don't have the same guts in them. You know, they might have a plastic backplate instead of a metal backplate. Well, metal backplate does have a positive effect. Those little things. I know MSI had problems with their low-end video cards a couple of years ago, and we've sort of stayed away from them ever since. But that's right. Yeah, whatever the number goes, you know, it gets passed along, marked up and passed along. And for me, it's not supply and demand that I have fewer of them available, so I'm going to raise my price. It's whatever price I buy it at, my markup is the same markup, the same percentage markup. So yeah, that's it. Well, we'll have to see what comes up in the future. I've got a pretty standard build. This is a, what is this? This is an Opal build coming up, so that's not very exciting. I've got some other Obtanium builds quoted, so we'll see what happens with some of those. And that might be fun to go back through and learning what I have on this one. I might be willing to make some changes. I might be willing to use a different CPU, a different Xeon CPU that might make available a higher clock speed, might make available that extra little PCIe port that we couldn't get to if I need it for something. For example, the system behind me has got the two 8-port Blackmagic Quad 2s. So that gives me 16 in, or, you know, 14 in and 2 out, that kind of thing. But if I need more outputs, for example, I need my 16 ins and I still want to get 4 outs, I might put a DeckLink Duo 2 in there to get me 4 outputs. We'll see. We'll play with some of that and see if it's feasible. And again, vMix has kind of given us a lowest common denominator of what works. And that, if we want to step up the CPU and step up the GPU, and I think the RAM on this stuff was 6,000 MTs, so that's pretty high. That's faster than the processor, for sure. And I think in the vMix notes on this, they suggested like no lower than 4,200 MTs on the RAM. So we were able to do that. Basically, we got what we could get. It was one of those time periods where things were harder to find. I think we ended up sourcing some of the RAM directly from the RAM manufacturer because it wasn't available in the channel. That's just the way it is. Jan says there's a small local integrator close to his workplace, respected for the quality builds. They already have systems with 5090s ready for delivery for not crazy prices. Good for them. They've obviously are well connected. That's the key. Well connected. Yep, there you go. They were hoarding them. Jan, they were hoarding them. Don't hoard GPUs. No, hoard them. It's good to have. It's good. It's good. It's smart business to do that. If you're buying them and paying for them, you can buy and pay for as many as you think is appropriate. I agree with that. I do. Especially if you anticipate, problems, or if we're in the middle of problems. Pandemic was a problem. Tariff-demic is a problem until it's not. Until it's not. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to cruise out of here. If you're thinking that I'm a little different today than normally, go back and listen to the pre-show where I describe why I'm more loopy than I might otherwise be. Yeah, there we go. Can't buy piece parts. Only buy value added. Yep, there we got it. All right, guys. Appreciate you. And we will catch you next week.